When Sylvester Stallone walked onto the stage of Jimmy Kimmel Live, the energy in the room shifted instantly. The audience erupted in applause, a wave of nostalgia and admiration washing over the studio. Dressed in a sharp suit with his signature smirk, Sly was clearly in a playful mood. But no one, not even Jimmy Kimmel himself, expected what would happen next. Kimmel, known for his quick wit and playful jabs, started the interview as usual. Light banter, a few questions about Stallone's latest project, and then a teasing remark about Stallone's legendary mumble. "You know, I still need subtitles when I watch Rocky," Jimmy said with a grin, clearly expecting a laugh. Stallone paused, narrowed his eyes, and leaned into the mic. "Well, Jimmy," he began, his voice deep and gravelly, "at least people watch Rocky. When they see your show, they just reach for the remote." The crowd exploded. The timing, the delivery, it was flawless. Kimmel chuckled, slightly taken aback. Okay, he said, holding up his hands. "Touché." But Stallone wasn't done. "You know," Sly continued, "I was backstage watching your monologue. It reminded me of my early boxing days. Lots of swinging, very little landing." The crowd howled. Kimmel laughed, clearly enjoying the roast, but also realizing he was now in the ring with a heavyweight, not just of cinema, but of comebacks. "You've been doing this show for how long?" Stallone asked, mockingly serious. 20 years, Kimmel replied proudly. 20 years, Sly repeated thoughtfully. "And still no Oscar? You might be the Jimmy Fallon of late night." Even the band had to pause to react. The audience was losing it. Kimmel clutched his chest dramatically. "You're killing me, Sly. Killing me," Stallone smirked. "Just trying to help you build some character, you know, like I did with Rocky. Took punches, got up again, except your punches are more like soft tickles." As the laughter settled, Stallone shared a story about his first time attending an award show in the 70s, comparing it to modern-day Hollywood. Back then, actors were trying to be mysterious and cool. Now they're just trying to go viral on TikTok. "I miss the days when an actor would disappear for a year and come back with a beard and an Oscar. Now they come back with a dance challenge and a skincare line." Kimmel tried to get back into control. Okay, enough roasting. You've got a new film coming out, right?" "Yeah," Stallone said, nodding. "It's about a man who loses everything, his job, his money, his talk show." Kimmel's eyes widened. "You wrote a movie about me?" Stallone burst out laughing, this time genuinely. "Nah, Jimmy, you're too tough to lose everything. I mean, even if you did, you'd still find a way to turn it into a segment." Then Stallone turned serious for a moment, catching the crowd off guard. "But honestly, Jimmy, I respect what you do. I give you a hard time, but it's all love. You're a survivor in this business, and that's saying something. Not everyone has the guts to be themselves in front of millions every night. That takes heart, and maybe a little insanity." The audience applauded. Kimmel nodded. "That means a lot coming from you, Sly." Stallone smiled. "Of course. I mean, you're still not winning any Oscars, but hey, neither did I until I was like 70. The banter continued, but the atmosphere had shifted. The roast had started as a playful jab, turned into a series of unexpected knockouts, and landed with real admiration. Stallone had not only left the audience speechless with his comebacks, he'd reminded them all why he's such an icon. Just when Kimmel thought it was over, Stallone turned toward the audience. "One more thing," he said. Everyone leaned in. "I told my wife I was coming on Jimmy Kimmel Live. She said, 'Oh, I love that guy.' I said, 'Yeah? Do you also love commercials? Because that's what I'll be sitting through waiting to speak.'" Boom. One last punch. The crowd roared. Kimmel could only laugh, throwing his cue cards into the air in mock defeat. "That's it. I retire. Stallone wins." And that was the moment. The crowd wasn't just laughing. They were witnessing a masterclass in charisma, wit, and timing. Stallone had roasted Kimmel so smoothly, so effortlessly, that what started as an interview became a comedy showdown for the ages. And in true Rocky fashion, Sly walked away victorious, reminding everyone that legends don't fade, they just get funnier. Backstage, cameras caught Kimmel shaking his head with a grin. He roasted me alive, and I loved every second. That clip went viral within hours. Social media exploded with memes, fan edits, and debates over who had the best line of the night. Some called it the funniest late-night moment in years. Others said it was a perfect example of old-school, cool meeting modern comedy. But one thing was clear. Sylvester Stallone didn't just visit a talk show. He stole the show. And that, my friends, is how you deliver a knockout punch. With words. When the camera stopped rolling, the studio audience was still buzzing, laughing, clapping, even standing around hoping for just one more moment of Stallone magic. Crew members exchanged wide-eyed glances, some saying they hadn't seen Jimmy Kimmel get roasted that hard since he tried to go toe-to-toe with Don Rickles years ago. But there was something different about Stallone's roast. It wasn't mean-spirited or rehearsed, it was raw, sharp, and filled with that rare quality only legends possess: authenticity. As Stallone made his way backstage, fans flooded social media with clips of the segment. Twitter, or X, as it's now called, was trending with hashtags like Sly Destroys Kimmel, Roast of the Year, and Rocky Still Punches Hard. Comment sections filled up with phrases like, Sly's still got it, and that roast had more punches than a Rocky montage. Back. On stage, Jimmy Kimmel returned from a commercial break, still shaking his head. I just want to apologize to everyone who tuned in tonight, expecting me to be the funny one. Apparently, Stallone had other plans. Even Guillermo, Jimmy's longtime sidekick, chimed in. He beat you, Jimmy, but nicely. Kimmel nodded. Yeah, he beat me with charm. Death by charm. Behind the scenes, producers were already working overtime to cut clips for YouTube. One of them reportedly said, This is going to break records. It's not every day you see Stallone verbally uppercut someone on live TV. The full interview was posted that night. Within hours, it racked up millions of views. TikTokers began stitching their reactions to Sly's jabs, with some even reenacting the exchange line for line. Instagram Reels turned the roast into sound bites, while Reddit lit up with threads dissecting every punchline. But perhaps the most touching part came later that night when Stallone posted a short clip to his own Instagram. A selfie video in his dressing room, still in his suit, grinning ear to ear. Hey folks, he said. That was fun. Kimmel's a great guy, tough opponent, but somebody had to take a few swings. All in good fun. Keep punching. It was classic Stallone, cool, humble, and effortlessly charismatic. Fans flooded his post with support, some even calling for a comedy special or podcast. The next morning, entertainment media exploded. Headlines read, Sylvester Stallone roasts Kimmel into oblivion, and America loves it. Sly goes savage. Best late-night moment in years. Jimmy Kimmel meets his match in a verbal sparring match with Rocky. Even celebrities chimed in. Ryan Reynolds tweeted, Sly, if you're ever free to guest host my roast, I'll bring the gloves. And Dwayne Johnson reposted a clip with the caption, Legend, period. But Stallone wasn't out for blood. He was out to remind the world that while he may have slowed down physically, his mind was sharper than ever. That behind the muscles, there's a brilliant comedic instinct and timing honed over decades of navigating Hollywood. A week later, Stallone returned to the public eye again, this time during a press junket for his film. Of course, the first question wasn't about the movie, it was about Kimmel. Do you think you went too hard on him? Stallone grinned. Nah, Jimmy's a big boy. He can take a few punches, plus I left out the part about his haircut. The room burst into laughter. It wasn't just a moment, it was a cultural reset. In a world full of overly scripted interviews and watered-down comedy, Stallone brought back real personality. He showed the younger generation how it's done, by being sharp, quick, fearless, and most of all funny, without being cruel. In the days that followed, Jimmy Kimmel leaned into the roast, even dedicating an entire monologue to recovering from the Stallone incident. He aired a parody training montage of himself watching Stallone movies, lifting cue cards and punching joke setups in a boxing ring. It was hilarious, and also a sign of how well the moment had landed. Stallone didn't just roast a talk show host. He reminded everyone watching that being a star isn't about hype, it's about presence. And when he walked off that stage, he didn't just leave the audience speechless, he left an impression that echoed far beyond that one night. Because when legends speak, even in jokes, people listen. And when Sylvester Stallone roasts, he doesn't just throw punches, he makes history. When the dust settled, media outlets were still scrambling to keep up. Late-night commentary shows began dissecting the segment like it was a political debate or a Super Bowl play-by-play. One panel of comedians called it the best display of a improv wit by a movie star in recent memory, while another anchor joked, Stallone's roast should be studied in comedy schools. And it wasn't just comedians or pop culture analysts who weighed in. Respected figures from all over the entertainment industry chimed in. Martin Scorsese reportedly told a friend, "I always knew Sly had timing, but this was art." Quentin Tarantino mentioned it during a podcast appearance, saying, "That whole moment felt like an unreleased scene from a Tarantino movie. Unexpected, hilarious, and totally badass." Kimmel, not one to shy away from self-deprecation, decided to fully embrace the situation. A few nights later, he aired a mock trailer titled The Roast of Jimmy Kimmel, directed by Sylvester Stallone, featuring spliced clips of Stallone delivering his burn lines, complete with dramatic music, slow-mo reactions, and explosion sound effects. The trailer ended with fake text. "Coming soon to a theater near you. Rated R for roasted." The parody went viral just as fast. But perhaps the most surprising ripple effect came from younger audiences who didn't grow up with Rocky or Rambo. They were seeing Stallone not as the action icon their parents talked about, but as a comedic force in his own right, someone who could go toe-to-toe with a top-tier talk show host and win. TikTok edits surfaced with the caption, "This is how you age like fine wine," and "New gen meets old school wins." In interviews, Stallone remained cool about it all. "It was all in good fun," he repeated more than once. "Jimmy's a great host and he's smart enough to take a hit and roll with it. That's rare today. Most people can't handle being roasted, let alone laugh about it afterward." Meanwhile, fans started petitioning for Stallone to host his own talk show, or at least do a guest hosting stint. Thousands signed a Change.org petition titled, "Let Stallone host a night of Jimmy Kimmel Live." The comments were filled with pleas like, "Give the man a mic and a desk," and "We need Stallone x Hollywood weekly." Kimmel addressed the petition in a follow-up episode. "Look," he said, "if Stallone ever wants to take over for a night, he's more than welcome. I'll just sit in the corner and cry softly while he makes fun of my sneakers again." But Stallone wasn't gloating. He knew what he had done. It wasn't just about the roast. It was about showing the world that experience, charm, and timing can still steal the spotlight, even in an era of over-rehearsed content and viral desperation. He even said it himself during an off-camera interview. "You don't need to scream to be heard. Sometimes the quietest guy in the room drops the line that lands the hardest, and that's exactly what he did." People started digging up old clips of Stallone, moments where he displayed a similar sharpness, whether it was on press tours or award shows. A compilation video titled "Stallone Underrated Comedy King" made the rounds on YouTube, highlighting his surprisingly consistent comedic chops over the years. One commenter wrote, "I came for the action hero. I stayed for the punchlines." Even brands jumped on the moment. A sports drink company tweeted, "A mock ad, power, strength, timing. Get roasted by Stallone and stay hydrated while you're at it." The event became more than a one-night skit. It became a moment in pop culture. One of those rare times when comedy, legacy, and surprise all collided to create something unforgettable. In the final moments of that legendary episode, Kimmel looked directly into the camera and said, "If you missed this live, you missed TV history. But don't worry, it's the internet. This moment's gonna live forever." And it has. Even now, months later, fans still reference it. It became a touchstone, a moment where an icon reminded the world that age doesn't dull your edge, it sharpens it. Because when Stallone showed up, he wasn't there to promote a movie. He was there to throw verbal jabs, land knockout lines, and prove once and for all, you can take the man out of the ring, but you can't take the fight out of the man. When the audience finally filed out of the studio that night, still laughing and quoting their favorite lines, it was clear they had witnessed something more than just another late-night guest segment. It felt spontaneous, real, like those rare, unscripted moments in entertainment that no amount of production planning can replicate. Stallone didn't just show up to plug a movie. He walked in like a champ, dropped a few bombs, and walked out, with the belt. And Hollywood noticed. Within days, talent agencies and producers were in talks to pitch new formats around Stallone's unexpected comedic rise. Not action films, comedy. There were rumors of offers for a Netflix roast special. Streaming executives floated the idea of a mockumentary-style series with Sly mentoring younger actors on how to survive Hollywood, with a heavy dose of tough love and one-liners, of course. One exec anonymously told a trade paper, he's always had this magnetic screen presence, but now he's shown us he could sit at a desk, deliver monologues, roast celebrities, and have the whole country eating out of his hand. It's late-night gold. Stallone, however, stayed grounded. When asked if he'd ever consider hosting his own show, he laughed and said, "Nah, I'm not built for a nightly grind. I like to drop in, blow it up, and disappear. Like Rambo, but with punchlines instead of explosives." Still, fan demand grew louder. Clips from the Kimmel episode continued to trend for weeks. A supercut video titled, "Every Time Stallone Destroyed Kimmel in 7 Minutes" passed 30 million views. Memes flooded Instagram. One showed Stallone wearing boxing gloves made of microphones, captioned, "Talk Show KO Champion." Another showed Kimmel lying on the floor with fake bruises, a thought bubble reading, "Should have invited someone easier, like De Niro." The media called it a comeback, but truthfully, Stallone never left. What he did was remind the world of something they'd forgotten, that he's more than a movie star. He's a storyteller. And on that stage, with no script in front of him and nothing but charisma in his corner, he told a story without even trying. A story of resilience, humor, and total control under the spotlight. That's what set the moment apart. Because most celebrities come on late-night shows and play it safe. They laugh politely, plug their project, and maybe do a sketch if they're feeling adventurous. But Stallone? He stepped into that studio like it was Madison Square Garden. He played the crowd, danced around Jimmy's jokes, then landed haymakers of his own. It was more than a roast. It was a sparring match, and he was the undisputed champion. As for Kimmel, he owned it like a pro. Days after the episode aired, he posted a selfie with Stallone on Instagram, both of them laughing, with the caption, "I invited Rocky to dinner. He brought the gloves." In the end, there was no bruised ego, no awkward tension, just mutual respect between two masters of their craft. And that's part of what made it special. It wasn't just funny, it was classy. A collision of two legends from different lanes, each respecting the other and elevating the moment beyond a simple joke fest. Stallone wasn't trying to humiliate Kimmel. He was doing what great performers do, lighting up the room, owning the moment, and making sure nobody forgot it. Now, every time a new guest walks onto Jimmy's set, fans flood the comments with, "Yeah, but can they survive Stallone?" It's become the benchmark, the moment to beat. Because in an age of viral clips and fleeting fame, Stallone gave the world something rare, an instant classic, a TV moment that will be rewatched, quoted, and celebrated for years. The kind of moment that turns interviews into internet lore. And in the process, he reminded everyone of a simple truth. You can earn respect with action, but you cement your legend with timing, truth, and a killer sense of humor.